Hello and welcome to the Monroe Mythic Clancast. I am Jason Monroe. This is episode 149. I wasn't sure what I was going to record on this one. You don't know because you're just listening to these from the past, in the future, from the past. This is the third one I've recorded and not posted yet. I'm trying to get caught up. So I had to go. What I do is, if I'm ever behind or I ever don't remember what episode number we're on, I go to Spotify, my own Spotify, to find out what episode I'm on my own podcast. And then I calculated the dates. And this one should have gone out on Friday, the 12th of September. And do you know what Friday, the 12th of September was? It was 3 years of sobriety. So that gives me a very easy topic to talk about this morning. If you have got absolutely no interest in sobriety, if you have the best relationship in the world with alcohol, you experience absolutely no negative side effects, alcohol has nothing but a positive impact on your life, then you will find this episode very boring. For those of you who are aware that maybe they drink a bit too much, maybe they turn into a snack monster under the influence, maybe they allow hangovers to ruin their weekend and have them starting on the back foot on a Monday. I'm not going to try to convince you to stop drinking alcohol forever, but I'm going to hit you with some big, massive home truths that are going to feel uncomfortable, might make you feel a bit emotional, but you probably need to hear. I'm assuming so anyway. I don't even know what I'm going to say yet. But I suppose I should put a bit of a trigger warning. I say this to my clients all the time, and I say it on social media when I talk about alcohol. One of the best things about being a nutritionist, being a coach who no longer drinks alcohol, is it means that I stop glossing over it for everyone else to protect myself. You know, I don't make jokes about hangovers anymore. I don't say, oh yeah, well that makes sense. You were hungover on Sunday, that's why you didn't do this, and eat all that. That makes sense. I don't do that anymore. Because I'm no longer trying to protect myself from the fact that I probably should have stopped drinking alcohol many years ago. First of all, let's start from the beginning. Sobriety is quite a serious term. I was not an alcoholic. I wasn't drinking regularly. There was no drama around it. I was just someone who did not get on with alcohol. I did not turn into a nice version of me. Drunk me wasn't... Here's the thing, right? I am super shy, which a lot of people don't believe when I say it, but I am very shy. It's the reason that I don't do face-to-face calls with people. They fill in a check-in form and I record feedback. I can handle that. I can record Instagram reels. I can put out content. I can put my face on a camera. That doesn't matter. I don't need to be shy because I'm not... It's the social aspect that I struggle with. Yeah, I'm shy, I'm socially awkward, and I don't do great in crowds. I think my biggest issue with alcohol was that I was never drinking alcohol to have a good time. I wasn't drinking alcohol. Is that the right thing? Let's start at the opposite side. So I used alcohol to become someone else, to become who because I always thought that because I wasn't very social, because I didn't feel comfortable talking to strangers, holding conversations, for many years. It's different now that I'm a bit more mature, but I'm still not some crazy outgoing person who'll just start and hold a conversation with anyone. But in the past, that was a big challenge because I think the problem was that I ended up in a circle of friends who were like that, and I wasn't like that. So I was like, it's like, how do you become that person? Well, I've discovered that, and this is so similar to the way that people use food, right? Like emotional eating and things. When I feel like this is what I do, and that helps me feel better. So this is what it was like for alcohol for me. I discovered that if I drink alcohol, I turn into this awesome, fun, outgoing person. Or at least I thought so in my mind. Sorry, I'm having to pick up a poo. How rude of the dogs to do it in that place instead of running into the woods to do it where I can't see it. So, yeah, I still don't do well in crowds, still don't do well with strangers. I suppose from what I do for a job now and have done for many years, I could hold a conversation a bit better. I've probably matured more in a social aspect, but being in social situations really drains my battery. Like, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I do a lot of stuff by myself. There's a reason for that. It's not because I don't have any friends or I'm any kind of loner. It's just I prefer my own company. You know, the way that my mind works. So, for example, the day that this podcast episode should have went out, Friday the 12th of September, I was on a trip by myself. So I put it in my diary, in the family diary, to say Thursday, Friday, Saturday are my days. I won't be here. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I won't be here. And I packed my car with all my stuff, jumped in, and I started driving. And the first thing I did was take myself for a coffee and for a walk. While I was on that walk, I was on my phone, and Jimmy Carr popped up. And something about Jimmy Carr playing Blackpool popped up. And I went, oh, I wonder if there's any tickets left. And there was, especially when you're a single person, going by yourself, there's lots of individual seats. So on Thursday, the 11th of September, I jumped in the car after my coffee and walk, drove to Blackpool, got a hotel, went to see Jimmy Carr that night by myself. Next again day. What did I do the next day? Spent some time in Blackpool, went to the beach, went for a walk, bought the kids some gifts. And then I went to the caravan, my in-laws' caravan, by myself, to spend a quiet night and morning away. And it was amazing. Like, I love being by myself. It's the reason I get up so early and go climb mountains at silly o'clock in the morning. You know, if you go with someone, you know, if I go and climb mountains for 8 hours and go with someone, that's 8 hours of conversations, and it's just not me. I could do it with my best mate, but he doesn't climb mountains. He's not outdoorsy, shall we say. Anyway, so yeah, my issue with alcohol, and I can, you know, having not drank it for 3 years and having lots and lots and lots of time to think about it and reflect on it and understand it, I have come to realise that you've heard me talk about eating food and using food. I think the same applies to alcohol. There's drinking alcohol, and then there's using alcohol. And we do it in very similar ways. So my issue was that I thought that I was supposed to be a different version of me. Like, you're supposed to be someone who wants to get up and dance and talk to lots of people and join in all the conversations and make people laugh. And alcohol helped me do that. So I would say that most of my alcohol career was spent using alcohol to transform myself into what I thought a socially acceptable version was supposed to be. Does that make sense? And I liken that to, you know, people using chocolate or crisps or takeaways. Like, when I feel like this is what I do. When I've got a social situation, this is what I do. And you know, I think back now where I remember my wife saying something to me where it was like, oh, we've got this thing, somebody's retirement dinner or something for someone else. I'll drive and you can drink since you don't know anyone. And when I think, you know, I've only just thought about this right now, right this second that's popped into my head. Why did that not make me realise way back then that was an issue? If you need alcohol, if you need to intoxicate yourself to be comfortable in the presence of other people, that should have been a red flag. So yeah, on the 12th of September 2022, if you can remember, the war in Russia had just kicked off. The reason I remember it is because the Russian Grand Prix got cancelled, the Formula 1. And because that got cancelled, that meant there was a 3-week break in the Formula 1. And I had gotten to a point in life at the age of 37 where alcohol really was like the handful of big occasions throughout the year, friends' birthdays, your birthday, blah, blah, blah. can count on one hand how many like big alcohol occasions with a proper hangover. Greatly reduced from years before. But there was also the Formula One, where I would usually buy like a 4-pack of beers. Not enough to get anywhere near drunk, but enough to get merry. Enough to still have a bit of a fuzzy head the next day. And on Thursday, the 12th of September, I don't know why, I remember the day. It wasn't a Thursday, sorry. On the 12th of September in 2022, whatever day that was. Maybe it was a Sunday, maybe it was the day the race was supposed to be. I would need to check. But, I made that decision. Do you know what? Alcohol actually has no place in my life anymore. What is it adding? It's adding nothing. And this came from my kind of continually reviewing life, like going back to 2020, taking myself to therapy, hiring business mentors, hiring a personal trainer. It's like, what can I improve next? What can I improve next? You know, and it's like constantly reviewing your life to make the tweaks, to make things better. The same way I do with clients when it comes to their diet at every check-in. Okay, let's fix this thing. Let's talk about this thing. Let's explore this. Let's get better and better every fortnight. And I just reached a point on my list where it was alcohol. Is this adding to life or is it taking away? What are the pros and cons of never drinking alcohol ever again? Pros, never have a hangover ever again. Never waste a Sunday ever again. Cons, not be able to fit in socially, which isn't really a bad thing now that I think about it. I spent many years thinking it was. So, yeah, that's my story and my background. And I have not touched a drop of alcohol. Oh, that's a lie. I have accidentally taken a swig of a beer. We had friends over one night. I had alcohol-free Coronas and a couple of the guys had Coronas, regular Coronas. And I was sat out the back on the deck and in the dark round the fire pit, chatting to someone who was drinking Corona. I reached down, we were mid-conversation, I reached down to my right, I grabbed a bottle that was in the place. I thought I put mine down, still having a conversation, still looking at the other person, pulled it up to my mouth and took a swig. And immediately, I felt it like I knew what it was, the way that it went down my throat. And it was strange because I hadn't drank alcohol for, I don't know, about a year and a half by that point. It hit my stomach. I felt sick. And I don't know if I felt sick because of my reaction to the fact that I had just drank alcohol, or I don't know if I felt sick because it was my reaction to alcohol hitting my stomach for the first time in a year and a half. But I felt awful. It was probably a combination of the two. And I swallowed it. I didn't realise when it was in my mouth. You know, I don't swish it around my mouth before I swallow it. It's not bloody wine. I just took a swig and drank it. And immediately I put it down and I ran through and I was like, oh my God, Claire, I just drank a beer. But it was fine. Like, this whole, I think I've spoken to many people since who that's happened to. Mix up at bars, mix up at tables. You know, and I was like, oh, have I broken my sobriety? Can I still say that I've not drank alcohol for 3 years? But the reality is, there was no intent behind it. It was an accident. But yeah, so apart from that, I have not touched a drop of alcohol since. And it has been, hands down, the best thing that I have ever done for myself in my life. I don't regret the years that I drank. I don't regret the lads' holidays and the nights out and all the things that I've experienced in association with alcohol, all my years of clubbing and events and things. I don't regret them, but what I do regret is that it didn't happen much sooner. Because all I think is, like, how much farther on in life would I be right now? If I stopped drinking alcohol when I set up the Monroe Method, how much farther on would I be business-wise? You know, I would say that alcohol slowed things down. Here's a great quote for you. There's a couple, a popular couple. He was very famous first. Layla, his wife, is gaining a lot of traction herself as well. Such is the way of the fucking man's world, isn't it? But his name's Hormozy, or Alex Hormozy, very popular businessman, famous businessman in America. I love all his stuff. But I actually started following his wife first, interestingly. I knew who he was, but I didn't follow him because I wasn't interested. But Layla popped up and I followed her first. I actually like listening to her more. But anyway, she posted a quote yesterday, and I can't remember it word for word, but it was something like, if the way you start your Monday is catching up on things from the weekend before, you're already behind. Basically meaning that you should have everything, you should be starting a Monday tackling the week ahead, not catching up from the week before. And it is such a horrible cycle to get into, and that is something that alcohol does. Now, I work with hundreds of people who drink alcohol. I work with dozens of people who alcohol is having a horrible impact on, and yet they still keep choosing it. And all I can do is have very honest conversations with them and say, look, you've checked, like recently somebody checked in with this big, massive panic. Oh, this isn't working, this is going wrong, this is awful. And I looked at the fortnight as a whole, and I was like, you actually had a great fortnight. There's one thing that went wrong this fortnight, and that's why you feel like this. Do you see that Saturday night where you told me you went out, and then that Sunday when you had a hangover and you said you were eating everything in sight? Those 2 days, those are the only reason that you feel like this right now. Because everything negative happened as a result of that. And that's what I mean about not glossing over things anymore. Like, in the past, I would have said that, oh, don't worry about it. You had a drink, you had a hangover. This is normal. It's normal to feel like this. It's not normal to feel like that. It's not normal to poison your body. Eat to excess. Eat to the point where you feel sick and hate yourself. And then one night on a Saturday knocks into the week, the entire week. And then you didn't just have a night out on Saturday and a few drinks. You had an entire week of going backwards because you're eating and you can't stop. The annoying thing about alcohol is that, we think that we're just having a drink on a Saturday night, or we're just having a drink on a Friday night. And it never stops there. It goes into Sunday. You have a drink on a Saturday night and it's enough to get drunk, right? Now, I talk about the things that happen under the influence and the things that happen after the influence. So anyone listening to this probably has a history of alcohol, a history of drinking. And within that history, you will have a very clear picture of the type of drunk person that you are. You will know full well that if you're drinking at home, for example, you know that once you've had that first glass of wine, you fancy crisps or nuts, or the cheese and biscuits come out. Or you know that you'll start drinking a little earlier before you've had any dinner because you think, oh, I'll just not have any dinner and that'll be my alcohol calories. And by the time you've had 3 or 4 drinks, you're ordering a massive takeaway. And then there's after the influence. Well, no, sorry, still under the influence. Then you go to bed. I don't know, I feel like not many people know this, but you don't sleep when you're under the influence. Your eyes are shut, you're unconscious, but you're not going through a sleep cycle or a full sleep cycle. You don't go into the restorative sleep, REM sleep. You don't get there. This is why you are so tired the next day and you feel like you could nap all day, because you've essentially removed a night of sleep from your week. Now, the amount of people I work with who know full well what that does to them. Oh, I didn't get a great sleep. My calories were high that day, but it's because I didn't get a great sleep that night. What do you think's happening when you're under the influence of alcohol? So if you know that you are someone who eats or has increased hunger when they don't sleep much, that's going to be part of your hangover. So that's still the under the influence stuff. In case you don't know, right? Alcohol is a poison. It's a toxin. It's the ethanol part of the drinks that you drink. So it's if you're drinking wine or beer or whatever, it's not all alcohol. But there's a part of it, a percentage of it, that is ethanol. And it's that ethanol part That is the toxin. It's the one that goes into your bloodstream. It's the one that makes you feel drunk. And a lot of people don't know this, but it's the secret fourth macro. After carbs, fats, and protein, alcohol is the secret fourth macro. A lot of people think fiber is a macro. It's not. Not that it really matters. Like, who cares about accuracy? But alcohol is the secret fourth macro. And it actually... So normally your body burns in order. Carbs are the priority. Then come fats. Then comes protein. But typically, we're not getting in a position where our body's having to convert protein into energy. But it can if it has to. However, when alcohol is in the system, alcohol is a priority. Alcohol takes over. So here's I don't know if this is going to be helpful or not, but this is something that people do need to be accurate about because it's misinformation where you see a lot of coaches, PTs especially, there's this bloody woman who is clueless about nutrition, but she's got a six-pack, so she must know everything. And she was talking about alcohol. Your body is not burning fat when you drink alcohol. Listen, when you're in a calorie deficit, your body's always burning fat. Calorie deficit still rules all. All it means is that if you drink alcohol, it gets treated as a priority because it's a toxin, and your body wants to get rid of that toxin as soon as you get. This is what sobering up is. When we talk about sobering up, that's your body burning its way through the alcohol, using it as a fuel source, and trying to get it out your system. Because it's a poison, it's a toxin, it's taken over, it's the number one priority. We need to get rid of this. So that's why it goes through that fast. But while it's doing that, it's not using up carbs. It's not using up dietary fats. It's not using up body fat. But that's irrelevant. Like if we remove alcohol from the picture, instead of drinking something, you eat something. That would also cause fat loss because you've got food calories to use. If you drink a glass of wine, now you've got alcohol calories to use. It doesn't switch anything off. It doesn't stop anything. It doesn't stop you from losing weight. And I know that's not... somebody asked me this question recently. Well, they didn't actually. They didn't ask me anything. I just volunteered the information. They said at the end of the check-in, I learned recently that alcohol does this and now I feel terrible for drinking. I was like, yeah, that doesn't actually happen. I'm not encouraging you to drink alcohol because we know it's having a super negative effect on you. However, it's also not stopping fat loss for 8 hours, I think she said she had read. So that's under the influence. Then we've got after the influence. And after the influence is the big one. Because this comes back to that Leila Hormozi quote. Where, if Sunday is your usual supermarket day, if it's your meal planning day, your laundry day, your ironing the kids' school uniform day, the packing your bag for work day, whatever it is, and you are rolling around on a couch for 16 hours with a stinking hangover, trying to feed it away, trying to sleep it away, trying to watch Netflix to distract yourself from all the anxiety that you've got from the shit that you might have said the night before as the flashbacks come. And you don't do that stuff. You don't get your food shop. You don't do this. You don't do that. I had a client once, a private client, who always, quote unquote, forgot the food shop. Do you know what she never forgot to do? Stop at Tesco Express on a Friday night on her way home from school. She was a teacher, to buy 2 bottles of wine. And I said to her, like I said, I can be very honest about these things and say, how is it that you can never forget to make sure you've got wine in the house, but it's very easy for you to forget to have food in the house? And it's just, you have to hit people with these kind of blunt questions sometimes to say, look, why do you place getting drunk on a higher pedestal than taking care of your health, than having a balanced diet? Now remember, that's not me being harsh to these people. These people have come to me to get help with their diet because they're worried about their health. So these are the challenging questions that you need to ask sometimes to say, look, If you can forget, without fail, to stop at that Tesco Express to pick up a meal deal, a pizza and a side and whatever, and 2 bottles of wine, but you can somehow just forget to go to the supermarket at the weekend to make sure you've got meals and lunches and things for the following week, there's a priority issue here. And then that's where we talk about that stuff. What is it that's so important about alcohol that you're placing that above everything else? And questions like that. And again, it's just to get people to reflect. Why do I prioritize this so much? Well, because it's the way that I celebrate the end of the week. It's the way that I relieve stress. And I think one of the answers that she gave me once was that I want to be able to enjoy my weekend and not think about work. Blacking yourself out with 2 bottles of wine probably isn't the best way or the most positive way to do it, because look at what it's doing to your weight. Look at what it's doing to your health. Look at how you're telling me you feel every Monday when you go back to work. Do you think removing a night of sleep from your week on a Friday night, being hungover over the weekend? And she also regularly drank on a Saturday as well, because she was usually so hungover from the Friday. So it was easier just to have another drink on a Saturday night to ease a hangover. And then you're impacting another night's sleep. Now, I know these stories and things won't apply to everyone. Like I said, some of you might have a wonderful relationship with alcohol. It has absolutely no negative effect on you whatsoever. I've never met anyone like that, but I'm sure they exist. But, it doesn't mean to say that it's having a negative effect on everyone, right? I'm very aware of that. My experience isn't other people's experience. Your experience isn't my experience. And it's the same with food. People think that they have weight problems for all the same reasons. I mean, we all had or have a weight problem for the same reason. We consume too many calories. That's it. That's the blanket problem. But then we all have our own unique, individual ways in which we arrive at that destination. After the influence. So after the influence, it's Monday morning. You have no work clothes ironed, maybe not even washed. You have no food in the fridge. So you've got nothing to take to work for lunch. You're tired, exhausted, because you've not slept all weekend, because you lost a day's sleep to alcohol. That means you're starting the day already stressed, already on the back foot, already flustered. If you've got kids, you're shouting at the kids. Why aren't you ready yet? Why are you not dressed yet? Have you brushed your teeth? Everybody in the house has now been affected by your alcohol. Because this is the thing, we don't make that connection, do we? We start on the Monday and we don't say, well, this has happened because I had a drink on Saturday night. We say, oh, this has happened because I didn't manage to get to Tesco yesterday. Take that a step further. Why didn't you manage to get to Tesco? Because you were rolling around on a couch with a hangover because you drank to excess the night before. And this is, again, what I mean about being blunt and honest about it. It's taking responsibility for your actions, not, oh, well, I didn't manage to. Why didn't you? We're very good at protecting ourselves from the truth. We're very good at not taking full responsibility for things. In our head, we would take responsibility for it, but we don't want to go directly there and say, look, this Monday is going pear-shaped because I had a drink on Saturday night. We don't want to admit that. Oh, I didn't manage to get to Tesco. Didn't manage to do the ironing. I didn't manage to get the washing done. We'll get it this week sometime. So anyway, Monday. You've started on the back foot, you're stressed, you're panicked, you've got everybody in the house in a state as you're rushing out the door. You've now started the day shouting at your kids. Your kids are going to school having been shouted at and not starting their day particularly nice. Something that, this is a little side issue, but this is something that I work on a lot with my kids. Like my ex-wife, now ex-wife, and I, we're very different in this sense. So I'm very planned, very organised, very early for things, right? I like to be up and out the door early. That means everything's done efficiently, everything's done well ahead of time. Like if I was going on a day trip, the car would be packed the night before. And it would literally be, let's just wake up, have breakfast, brush your teeth, get dressed, and off we go. Whereas she was very last minute. Everything got left to the last minute. And because it got left to the last minute, and this is why I'm describing this exact situation, because it happened in our house a lot. Quick, do this, do that. We need to go. We're meant to be leaving in 5 minutes. It's like, it's not the kids' fault that we're meant to be leaving in 5 minutes. We're the adults. That's our responsibility. And I'm very conscious of what that does to children at such a young, impressionable age, and what that does to their mental health. Like, why should we be getting kids all wound up? Because we've not managed to do something, or be on time, or be more efficient, or not be hungover. So, the thing about alcohol is that it never stops on the Saturday night, right? You very rarely have 3 glasses of wine or a bottle, whatever a bottle is, 3.5 glasses. I suppose it depends how big your glasses are. But your bottle of wine on a Saturday, and everything that happens as a result of that, all the things that you don't do on a Sunday that then roll into the following week. And this is I don't know what, this is the kind of thing that I've landed on and started talking about, but I think it's because it's the one that's so prominent when I talk to clients about alcohol, because, they'll say things like, well, I forgot to plan my meals that week and I didn't do this and we didn't manage to get the food shop. I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's go back to Saturday and point the finger at the reason why you didn't do any of those things. And it's not a blame game. It's not a shame game. It's a taking ownership of it. You didn't forget anything. You were hungover on Sunday and you did not want to leave the house. You didn't want to do anything. You were just fighting for your life and trying to survive the day. And that's fine. If alcohol is such an important part of your life, and again, this is another way for you to challenge yourself, especially if you're someone who is carrying a higher level of body weight, who knows that they have unhelpful eating habits, who knows what they're like under the influence, after the influence, and still chooses to drink alcohol, ask yourself this question, because it will really fuck you up in a good way, in a helpful way. If alcohol is such an important part of your life that you're willing to sacrifice your health for it, why is that? What is so important to you about alcohol that you can accept that you're going to be overweight? Remember, if your alcohol intake, and it's not just the alcohol intake, it's the everything. When I talk about people drinking, I'm not just thinking about the 600 calories in a bottle of wine. I'm thinking about the 2,000 calorie takeaway, the 1,000 calories of crisps, the thousands of calories of food that you'll eat the next day. All the grabbing and go that you're going to do the following week because you didn't get your food shop. You've not planned any meals. The amount of takeaways you're going to eat the following week because you come home from work and you're exhausted because you lost sleep at the weekend. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about alcohol. Why is it that you're willing to put yourself through all of that in exchange for a few hours of being drunk on a Friday night? Why is alcohol so high up on your priority list? And your initial reaction to hearing that is, alcohol isn't high up my priority list. Well, you've convinced yourself of that. And just the same way that my ex-client that I told you about, alcohol's not high up my priority list. Well, how come food that you need every single day, literally the reason that you're here getting help with me, how is it that you can just forget about something you do 3 times a day, but you can easily prioritize something that you're doing once or twice a week? You are placing alcohol above the goals that you have for yourself. You're placing it above your health. You're placing it above improving your quality of life. And again, this isn't about, if you're working with me, if you've spent any time inside the Monroe Method, if you've ever gone through a check-in with me, you'll understand that in a world where there are many shouty, ranty, aggressive PTs shaming people and blaming them and fat shaming them and telling them they don't want it enough, you don't get that from me. What you get is empowerment, taking on the responsibility of your choices. All you have to do is say, yes, you're right. I do place a lot of importance on alcohol. And then that's the first step. What's the next step after that? Why do you place such importance on alcohol? Well, it's because I have a very stressful job. I don't have any other stress-relieving techniques in my toolbox. I don't go for walks. I don't exercise. I don't spend a lot of time outside. I don't read. I don't meditate. I don't journal. I don't nap. I don't stretch, I don't take some time to do some deep breathing, I get a bottle of wine. And this is something we've spoke about a lot recently. I wrote a daily post this week actually about how, once upon a time, many people had relatively comfortable lives in terms of balance. No kids, no massive work pressures. Like, you don't realize this until you get older, by the way. And if you're in your 30s, you realize how much time you had in your 20s. If you're in your 40s, you realize how much time you had in your 30s. If you're a parent, you realize how much fucking time you had when you weren't a parent. Jesus. And you wonder what you did with it all. I don't know how I got onto that tangent there. I've lost the track of what I was saying before. Oh yeah, the thing we've been talking about a lot is, once upon a time you were going out, maybe you were going for walks, maybe you were doing more. And as time goes on, especially if you have kids or you advance in your career, or maybe you study or you get your first job after studying, graduating, and these things start to slip because you don't have enough time. But you know what we always have time for? The unhelpful stuff. We always have time to eat, time to order takeaways, time to vape, time to drink alcohol, time for social media, to scroll your phone, to play games. And I think one of the biggest problems is that many adults allow their world to shrink so small that that's all they're left with. And when all you're left with is the unhelpful kind of destructive habits, that's when your health starts to suffer. And this is what I mean by, it's not about never drinking alcohol ever again. It's not about never emotional eating ever again or using food ever again. It's understanding that you've allowed life to get to a point where these are the only things you've got. If you're stressed 50 times in a month and you reach for alcohol 50 times in a month, it's because you've got nothing else in your coping toolbox. If you're stressed, but you also exercise, you also go for walks, you also read, you also call a friend, you go for baths, you go for naps, you get early nights. You can be stressed 50 times in a month, but because you've got all these other things in your toolbox, you only use alcohol 5 times out of the 50 or 10 times out of the 50. So it's not that we should never... It's so windy here. I'm going to stop it until I get in the estate. I don't know if that wind was coming down the mic or not. Jesus. So it's not about you'll never drink alcohol again. It's about having more go-tos than just alcohol, more things to lean on than just alcohol. We need to have more positive influences than negative ones. And this is a lot of what I do with clients. People are emotionally eating. They're using food as stress relief. They're using food to cope. And it's not like, okay, you need to stop doing this thing, because you're still left with the problem that you have no stress relief. You have no emotional relief. You can white knuckle it and try to not eat. But if you're eating because of your emotions, because of your stress, because of your anxiety, not eating doesn't make those things go away. So you can't just remove one of your management tools, as unhelpful and destructive and negative it might be having an impact on your health. You're doing it for a reason. So we need to replace this. You've just reminded me of something that I used to say quite a lot about habits. Replace, don't erase. Write that one down. We need to replace these things because you still need to manage your emotions. You still need to regulate your emotions. You still need to manage stress. You still need that relief. So, build a bigger coping toolbox, right? Have more things to do than just eating and drinking. Otherwise, you'll struggle with your weight forever. But yeah, anyway, this has been my sobriety story. This has been a very long episode. I know, because I know when I started recording it and I know when I'm going to stop it. It must be a 40-minute. And yeah, listen, if anyone is sober curious, thinking about stopping drinking alcohol, worried about the impact of alcohol, wants to have a chat, you can reach out to me anytime. If you're one of my clients, you can bring it up at a check-in. If you're just someone from social media, you can drop me a DM. Very open to talking about these things in my usual blunt, honest way. You don't get any fluff or sugar coating it. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. So if you're happy with that, reach out to me at any time. I'm more than happy to chat about it. Anyway, that is enough from me. Until next time.